All drama in leadership and life is caused by the need to be right.
Mm,
Where have I needed to be right? I want to tell my kids, and it's all about kids right now. But it's, where do I need to be right, and where do I need them to be able to control their own lives?
yes.
And where do I need to put the nuggets where they need to say, oh, you know what? Maybe I can live my own life. Maybe I can go forward without mom telling me she's right.
Mm,
That is a hard thing for me right now. You
yeah.
know, yeah, it really is. And I don't need to be right. I don't. I need to know that maybe I have a right mind, but I don't need to convince other people that I'm right.
Mm, that's
That
interesting.
makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can sit here and say, you know what, I might have an answer, but what I need to do right now is say, what's your plan?
Mm,
Do you have a plan B? And I don't have to always be right. I don't always have to be that person. I don't always have to be the fixer. And that's what I'm learning right
yeah.
now. And that's amazing.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting is people that find themselves in that hero role. And by the way, you guys know the drama triangle, we all spend time in it, right? We all spend time in all those spots. In one conversation, you can be in all, right? But it's interesting what you said because I find myself there too. But the other place that I find myself, and I'm curious if you or anyone else finds themselves here, where it's sometimes about being right, and sometimes it's about controlling my discomfort. Meaning, like I don't want this to play out because I don't want to be inconvenienced. I don't want to have to go and hear the broken relationships, the bad or failed financial decisions, and now they're coming back home or whatever. I mean, if I'm being honest, I'm like, really? This is inconveniencing me. Just do what I say. And part of it, again, I'm realizing it's just me. Like, if I really cared about them, right? If I really sit with myself and just took myself out of the equation, what's most important is that they learn something from this. Like Rachel reminds me all the time, like, do you remember when you were 28? Like you didn't think and act like you are at almost 47. So why would you think that they're going to be where you are, right? So I think you're right. I think part of it is we want to be right, but also we want to prevent our own discomfort in the decisions that they make, right? Because they always affect us. Yeah. Um, okay. So that was great. Thank you, Deborah. I appreciate it. So I wrote down here about hero. We hate conflict, right? We talked about that. It's easy to see how the hero. Uh, now I'm trying to read my writing. The hero can be the least bad, right? In terms of those three areas, right? We start to see it as like, well, hero is not that bad, right? We start to compare. Well, if I'm going to be any one of these, I'd rather just be the hero. But what's interesting to me is the author spent the majority of time talking about the hero because the reality is it is a place that is very dangerous to be. And so I highlighted this part here. Yet we believe that hearing is a primary form of unconscious leadership. It is toxic because it leads to burnout, supporting others in taking less than their full responsibility, which makes them victims, and rewards behaviors that ultimately lead to individual and team breakdown. And so what I wanted to connect with you about, with all of you about, is think about health coaching. Isn't this the perfect place for a hero? Isn't this the perfect place for you to enjoy, being the hero, being the like, oh, you're such an amazing coach. Like, if we're honest, it feels so good, right? And in reality, it's the worst thing that we could do for our clients. It's the worst thing that we could do for our team. It's the hardest thing to allow people to fail. And I'm not saying, what I'm not saying is that we're not calling what they're doing okay, right? If somebody's like, I'm drinking alcohol, I'm doing this week, I had a terrible week, I had one of those check-ins today, and I just said, okay, what happened? What was the event? Okay, what were you thinking? What was going through your mind? Well, I was thinking about this and that, and then I just started, eating, and I didn't even think about it until after. And so then I said, well, what would you have liked to have happened? Well, I wish I didn't clear out the pantry of all the things that I shouldn't be eating. And I said, okay, so what's next? I don't know. What's next? And I said, okay, let's go into your life book. Let's look at stop challenge choose. Let's look at structured tension. Let me take you to this page. Let me take you to page, I think it's 85. Let's create a habit loop. So when you feel yourself reeling, then you can create a plan that's going to help you to be successful in that opportunity. So what was the cue? And so we worked through, well, my mind was spinning. I was so upset about X, Y, and Z. Okay. So that's the cue. What's going to be your response? What are you going to do with that? What's going to be the new routine? And so the new routine is going to be X. So it would have been really easy for me to give them a pep talk and tell them how it's okay. But the important thing is that because I'm deciding I'm not taking more than a 100% responsibility, I'm giving somebody else the opportunity to grow and to be the creator as opposed to the victim. Does that make sense? So I want you to see how not only in your personal life, but professionally as health coaches, we have the opportunity to help other people to see where they are and to help them to create their own plan out of life stresses, right? Dr. A coined the term emotional mismanagement because that's the primary reason behind why we are where we are, typically as Americans, as with our health. Here's the other place I wanted to take you to, is page 49. And if you guys have something to add, please take yourself off of mute and go ahead. But this is around the victim, villain, the hero drama triangle. It's the bottom paragraph. It says toxic fear drives the victim, villain, hero triangle. Blame, shame, and guilt keep it going. As we said in the beginning, blame and its root cause, toxic fear, are powerful motivators. But, and here's why I wanted to kind of end our time on, but they also leave a negative residue, resentment, and bitterness, along with low learning states, demotivation, and eventually demoralization. These toxic residues lead to high turnover and low innovation, creativity, and collaboration. No team can win with these elements corroding their effectiveness long term. And so I love that because I anchored on the word bitterness, and I see it as a place that there is some residue of that I see in my own life. And so part of it is like, what's happening with this bitterness? Obviously, it is one of the residues that comes onto you when you live and operate within the victim triangle, victim, hero, villain triangle. Did somebody want to add something, Chris or Yessie? No. Okay. So I wanted to share with you a couple of things that I read about bitterness. And I wish I had them for you on the screen, and maybe I'll post them in the post with the video. So here's what I got, and I'd like your thoughts on this. Bitterness is a result of clinging to negative experiences. It serves you no good and closes the door to your future. The next one is you either get better or you get bitter. It's simple. You either take what has been done, what has been dealt to you, and allow it to make you a better person, or allow it to tear you down. The choice does not belong to fate, it belongs to you. And so it puts the onus back on us to do something about the bitterness. Okay, and I've got two more. Be the person who breaks the cycle. This is one of my favorite ones. If you were judged, choose understanding. If you were rejected, choose acceptance. If you were shamed, choose compassion. Be the person you needed when you were hurting, not the person that hurt you. Vow to be better than what broke you, to heal instead of becoming bitter, so that you can act from a place from your heart and not your pain. I love that one because the bitterness comes from the pain of being in the drama triangle because we decided to be there. And before this book and before this journey, you probably didn't realize why you were struggling, but now you do. And so now we have the power to do something different. Um, Here's the last one. It's from Proverbs 18:21. Words kill, words give life. They're either poison or fruit. You choose. It's a choice every single time. Are we going to shift? Are we going to move? Are we going to be the person that is the person that we needed when we were hurt? Right? I love how the book illustrates this really well. He says, you know, children are victims, right? They can't operate, they can't help but sometimes be victims, right? They're hurt by someone else, right? They have no power over their circumstances most of the time, but they're victims. But yet as adults, we're still operating as that victim, and yet we have full control of doing the things that we need to do to move out of that place in bitterness, right? So I know this is easier said than done, but my encouragement to you is to do something with it. Because as he talks about here on page 49, that residue has a long lasting result, and none of which are good, all of which are going to leave you wanting more. Um, just the just the residue has so many negative consequences in our life. And so I'd like to hear from you guys about this bitterness piece. Anything that stood out to you, or anything that I shared this morning or this afternoon that may have been helpful for you, or what you were reading and putting it together.
I'll share, Tim.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Chris.
So yeah, again, I noticed it was talking a lot about the hero role too, and I think I was just talking to Yessie about it last night, as I'm reading the book and as I'm reading my life book, because there's a lot of correlation, but um, I identify with that in the sense that, like, with my job, like, our job here is to respond and to people's emergencies and solve problems, and it's so ingrained in me over time that when I come home, I have that problem solving mentality where I need to fix everything instead of really just being a listener sometimes, and hearing the other person's full response rather than hearing a portion of it and wanting to fix it already. And I noticed that when I don't listen fully and I go into this problem solver mode or this hero mode where I want to fix everything, um, it not only it creates a bitterness in the other person towards me, because that negative residue, because they just want to be heard and listened to and understood, and I'm on a different wavelength. I'm trying to fix and solve and come to the rescue. So um, I think just everything that Dr. Anderson and then this book too is making me realize is being more self-aware, and it's giving me information about myself to ponder and think about, um, whereas I didn't have that in my head before. So I was just subconsciously doing things, not realizing. And yeah, I think over time, like, if I didn't realize and make those changes, that resentment and bitterness will continue to grow until it's at a really unhealthy level. So I'm glad that I was intercepted with this program and with this book club, because I feel like I definitely have tools and techniques to like apply to make changes and create versus like, you know, just like that creator role you said, instead of being in the drama triangle.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have 2 kids, and I think, I think most everyone on this call today has kids. I think what's interesting is that, and you guys have heard me say this before, kids catch more of what you do than what you say. And so what if we break some generational curses, like in our own families, where, I think that one of the worst things I hate hearing is you're like your dad, right? Like it's like the things that, and it's not to say I had a terrible dad. It's just people tend to point out uh like the negative things that people are. And obviously there are things that are hurtful about those things, those people that we kind of take on. But I think when we know better, we do better. And so in the life book, Dr. A talks about in element 3, he says, um, part of building a habit is really just about being consistent. And I think sometimes when we think of these things, consistency doesn't mean perfection. Consistency means consistently practicing what you know is good, not being perfect at it. So, as we kind of circle the wagons on this, we're going to finish up element commitment 1. And I think one of the things just to consider is that the way that we build a habit, how we install a habit, is practicing it. We all know how long it takes to build a habit. Some habits take longer than others. The average, as Dr. A points out, is 66 days. So when we get finished with this book, there's going to be some habits that you've formed in that period of time, maybe sooner, and maybe some that you're still working on. So my encouragement to you is, this is hard work, but some of the best work that we do that's really hard has some of the best results. And not all of them are measurable in your bank account. A lot of them are going to be just measurable. And I'm not saying this to be morbid. I'm just saying, on your last day, like think of watching your kids and your family that have grown just a little bit better because you decided to do things differently. So I want to leave you with this on page 50. He talks about these 3 areas that typically leaders use for motivation. And he talks about the first 2 as being toxic. So intrinsic motivation is number 3, which means learning, fulfilling purpose, and autonomy. 4 is play, creativity, and expressing our genius in the world. And 5 is love. And so the one that really caught my eye, and I want to leave you guys with this, is play. Play is something that is so hard for us to do as adults. We kind of we grow out of it, right? We go, well, I can't do this anymore. But thank God for my grandchildren. They give me the opportunity to play, right? If you have small kids, you know what I'm talking about. Enjoy that time. That's time for you. Our kids are a blessing in that respect because they give us the ability to just be simple and to be connected, like just to the simple things of a small game that they're playing or something they're doing. It's so good for us. It helps us to de-stress and detoxify like our day just for that moment. And I found myself as my kids were growing up, rushing past that, like a few minutes on the ground and okay, you got this. Okay, I'm going to go do something else now. Right. But just having it, just think about what it does for you. Think about what it does for your kids, that they see mommy or daddy is like fully present. Like that experience with my grandkids, it's why they're so excited to come over here, right? Because it's like, Papa's going to play with me. Like he's really going to play on the carpet for as long as I want to play with this toy. And it's just been so good. It's something to consider as a way to motivate the people that you're working with. Take time to play, have fun, that have nothing to do with work. Take time with your spouse or your significant other to play, to go do something fun. It's been said many a times, especially for men, that we grow together shoulder to shoulder. right? That shoulder to shoulder time. So building something, working together, walking together, doing things together is a way to really connect with people. So any lasting thoughts? Yessie, did you have something, or anyone else? Amy, Deborah, anyone?
I would just like to say that I love Iyanla Van Sant, and she said, find the sacred moment at the top of every breath.
Mm,
I love that. I love it. Just breathe.
yeah,
That's all we need to do is just breathe.
that's awesome. That's great. Thank you.
That's good. I would just say, I definitely, just to piggyback off what Chris was saying a few minutes ago, I actually listen to respond. And I have not really noticed that about myself, with that need to be like, okay, you're going to have to you got to hear what I need to say now because I'm right. And that's not, so
Mhm.
I'm learning to really listen. And I'm also learning that I need to actually buy the book because I cannot listen to it on audio because I can't highlight and I can't figure out like anything. And I'm like trying to like, oh, I wish I had a book to look at the pages. So I have to order that. But I've listened to it and it's great, but it's really hard because you've listened to it, Tim.
Mhm.
It's harder when you're listening and then you don't have it to kind of look back at. But
Yeah. And if
that's a
you're,
shift I'm taking.
yeah, I love that. And I think one of the things that I learned when I was doing this book on audio is I had to make notes. So I literally, it took me forever to get through certain sections because I would stop and I go, oh, I got to rewind that. I got to capture that.
Yeah.
And so I was writing, I have tons of notes on my phone, and a lot of those are just from the first couple chapters, the first commitment. So awesome. Thank you guys. I appreciate you guys being here. And for all of you that are watching the playback, please join us next week. I'll be posting the time and our time here. We'd love to see you here live. I can't tell you the benefit of it. You have to experience it. And I know a lot of you are reading the book, and we'd love to have you here live with us. It's just so much more meaningful. And I'd love to hear from you guys what you're learning and how it's changing you. So anyways, thank you for your time. Good night.